And I can't believe today I'm talking to a guy I've never met, but I've heard a lot of stories. Today we got Lane Jackson. And what an honor it is. And I'm not just trying to like throw that first sentence out there to get people to listen to this. Obviously, I'm trying to do that because I think that there's a lot of power behind this thing. Um, but Lane Jackson was part of the modern day Navy football turnaround team. All right. He played, beside Bobby Mack and my inner circle group of guys that when we kind of started this thing about a year and a half ago, he was our coach at Naps. So he kind of helped set that standard, and playing right next to you, we got to hear the stories. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just really fun to get you on here today. And I get goosebumps sometimes for every now and then for an episode. This is one of them. Um, talk about a tough, and there's a lot of those themes throughout the memories, and I'm guaranteeing the story. Intelligent guy with the burning desire to win, to prove folks that we are capable of more. Um, in going through those memories, I had to write this down in your intro was a guy shows up with a nasty disposition at the right time in the right place. Um, Not only do Lane, and that's my son's name, by the way,
Yeah, that's
uh,
pretty cool.
do he and I share that common bond as former inside Navy linebackers, which, obviously I'm pretty biased to that position, and especially for Navy football because there's a sense of pride there. Um, while our paths diverged after the playing days, Lane went into the Navy SEALs. I took the Marine Corps route, um, and we're both now serving in a manufacturing space. So that's pretty awesome. Now a project manager at USF Fabrication. It's a family-owned business and has over a century of history. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You also serve as a high school football coach, coaching linebackers, uh, passing some of the tools from your tool belt down to the next generation of linebackers. So, whether you're a Navy football, person like Lane and myself, veteran, or in the manufacturing industry, anyone seeking some inspiration from someone who's overcome a lot of life challenges, buckle up because this is Lane Jackson.
Thank you. That was nice.
Going in, hey, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn how to write. I thought that was pretty good too. Trying to have some fun with this. So the memory section. This is something that's kind of developed early. I didn't do this all the time, but I started doing it, and it's been fun. So the first four memories are from people from my class era, and I don't know if you've met them all, but they knew you. So first one's Ram Vela from episode 9.
Yeah.
He just said, "Man, I've heard so many stories about that guy, and he was a dog." Ose Asante, he was our center. He also went to Naps, so did Ram. Episode 10, he said, same thing, because we're on a group text. He was like, "Hey, same, man." He and Bobby Mack were the cornerstones of what Navy football became. And then he said some other stuff about, how things are going now. But Cam Marshall,
What was that? What did he say there?
he said, it's not what it is now, which is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, gotta love him.
Hey,
Um,
we held strong for like 15, 17 years of winning.
hey, it's a cycle,
Yeah.
right? It's a cycle. So next one is Cameron Marshall. So he was my first episode. He was also in episode number 54. So because I wanted to, do it again with him after, going through some stuff and see how things changed. And so that's why I did 2 with him so far. He said, and I did this exact same thing. He said, I used to watch his 04 highlights. If you go on YouTube, you can look up Navy Football 2004 and get that Long, Long Way Together song. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, really? I got to do that. I haven't done that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you got to. 2004 Navy football highlights of you guys because it was that turn, that first
Yeah.
10-win season. And um, anyways, he said I'd watch that on repeat in the hotel room to get pumped up before leaving on a hotel bus before games.
Oh, shit.
Um,
That's fucking cool.
it is right.
Yeah. Hey,
Um,
I don't want to, real quick. Yeah, we were the first 10 win my senior class, but I don't want to discount the year before me, because that they had a bunch of dogs in that class too.
nice.
The '03 class or '04 graduating class, the year before we were 8-5, right? So that was really our first turnaround, right?
Yeah,
My freshman year we were 0-10, then 2-10, and then 8-5 our junior year, and they had a great group of dudes there too, man. Like
nice.
um, Eddie
Yeah, I mean, it
Carson.
doesn't happen overnight, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
it was it it took a few years. Obviously, Coach PJ Paul Johnson was the catalyst, but it was us. It wasn't PJ alone, right? So
yeah,
um, it was those bunch of dudes, man. Ralph Henry, Benny Matthews, Eddie Carthen, Shalimar, um, Todd, Shane Todd,
nice.
freaking great guys. Tough
Yeah.
dudes.
So Bobby Mack used to say, he taught us about the term FIBU, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, Continuing on Cam's memories, he said I used to get jacked up watching him and Bobby Mack making huge plays in that '04 defense. And last one is a perfect example of a guy who was so big time that everybody knew him, even though a few of us never interacted with him. Right. All right.
Well, that's kind of cool because I remember watching you guys play, and it was fun watching. And I didn't know any of that you guys looked up to us like that. So that's pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah. No, definitely. Huge carrot. When I say huge carrot, something to pursue. Um, it was. Uh, I even do that to this day. I'm like, all right, where do I want to be? Who's doing it? Who do I need to, learn from? And at that time, that was you guys for sure. So, um, next memories, Clint Sovey. So episode 20, uh, on wearing your number
Oh
44.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. He said, everybody compared me to Lane Jackson. And Clint's like, I'm not freaking Lane Jackson. All right. He said, Paul Johnson came down the locker room and said, put Clint in locker 44. He's got number 44. Both of you guys, similar body styles, 190, maybe 200 pounds. Well,
Yeah,
definitely Clint is 190, soaking wet.
he was even
Um,
smaller than me,
he was smaller than you.
and I was
Gotcha.
small.
Yeah. Um, I think, and he didn't write this, I wrote it, was similar body language and playing style, though, like out of a cannon. Clint said, I don't think I ever matched his tenacity, but it was an absolute honor to be compared to Lane Jackson. So he also said, South Florida football is weak.
What?
LOL. Yeah.
Jackson. We just our high school team, my high school team, I coach just beat a Jacksonville team. He's from Jacksonville, right? Or
Yeah.
somewhere up
Duval.
north, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we just beat Mandarin in the state title.
Nice. Really? State
Yeah,
win.
yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah,
And you're coaching that. Linebackers.
yeah. Actually,
Imagine that.
I gotta give a shout out to one of our linebackers. He's I was kind of blessed to be able to coach him. He my my best linebacker, our starting Mike, number
Yep.
one defensive player in 4M in all the whole state of Florida. He's incredible.
Nice.
He's incredible.
Nice. What
Great,
makes him
great.
incredible? What
His
what what Yeah.
That's a great question. Well, obviously he's talented, uh, way better athlete than all of us. But he's small. He's like 5'9", 210, maybe 215. But he's got he's a competitor, man. That's what it takes. Like he's one of those dudes that every single rep, every single practice, he's trying to get better.
Yes.
100% all out every single rep, and it shows on the field. And he's an incredible player. But anyway, I was kind of bragging because
That's
I'm very
good. No.
very proud of that. Even though he does all the work.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's fun. Like, I've also learned uh, over the past, 5 years that bragging is good, especially when they're on your team. Like, that's like the best thing ever. Actually, is when you have somebody like that you're working with, and they just become awesome. You know, so that's great. All right, so that's the young bucks. We'll get into three more guys and memories. All three in your backer core from your years there at the Naval Academy. First one is Jumbo. Um, some words to describe Lane that come to mind: tremendous athlete, competitor, leader, tough, football tough, also Navy SEAL tough. He also said, I think he said fourth quarter drills were harder than buds. Does that
Um,
sound about right? Or is
as I was going through buds, everybody, whenever I came back to, or talked to somebody in Navy, what's it like, and for the, I don't know, about halfway through first phase, I kept saying, oh no, you know what, fourth quarters were tougher. Fourth quarters were tougher because when Paul Johnson, his first fourth quarters, when he came in, that set the bar, right? Of
yeah,
the toughest thing that we had ever been through, and
yeah.
it took a while. Buds eventually overcame it,
Okay,
but
gotcha.
it
And
took
I have a
us.
question more about that. And like, hey, what was your real story with buds? Because us guys that didn't go Navy SEALs, that you know, watch all the Navy SEALs movies, is and even in those documentaries, there's always a way to frame the video or frame how it is. I want to get your real story of buds here in a little bit, if
All
you
right,
don't mind.
all right.
Cool. He also said loyal and great friend. He led by example. He was always prepared for the games. We roomed together, and before games, I'm assuming room together
Yeah,
before the game. Yeah, okay. While you're traveling or in the
yeah. He was
hotel.
my travel roomie.
Nice. He was always studying his assignments and the game plan, always trying to figure out what that edge was on his opponents. Um, he was always someone you could count on. He'd step up when a play needed to be made. He was someone that would make you better on the football field and also off the field. So those are the Jumbo
Jumbo
comments.
said that.
Jumbo said that. Yeah. Next guy, TJ Costello, also
Oh
from the
boy.
backer core. Y'all first met at NAPS.
Yeah.
And for the group, NAPS is the prep school that you go to coming out of high school before you go to the Naval Academy. Newport, Rhode Island. It's kind of like a red shirt year.
Mhm.
Um, and you showed up with a nasty Miami full protruding from the chin strap type of beard.
Yeah.
And you went Navy SEALs. Okay, got it. He said that first day indoctrination in Newport, um, that first day was like a meet and greet. And Coach
Right.
Browse, Coach Browse is the strength trainer there in Newport, Rhode Island. He pulls all the football guys into their position groups. And TJ's like, these dudes are huge, except that guy
Yeah.
looking at you in the linebacker core. He said, Lane 100% got me through NEPS. Helps me with my coursework. He named a software system at the time that was required to, you
Falcon
do your
View.
homework. There you
Falcon
go.
View.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. That you helped him with that, and y'all lived across the hall. And he also said, great human. Uh, yeah. So last memory until I open up to you to tell a story. But
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
remember walking up to that huddle there that we had and where all the linebackers were meeting, and
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, holy cow! Like, how am I going to start over these guys? Like,
Yeah.
all of them were big, and then like, all right, I better bring it. I better bring it. But it worked out. It worked out.
Yeah.
And
You brought it.
and it
Sounds
ended
like.
up being me and TJ starting, and all the big guys they didn't play. But
Hey, speed wins. It's not about, and I learned that after the Body by Browse program at the, on
you had
in the
Browse
off
too?
season. Oh yeah, I had Browse too. No,
Oh
he didn't
man.
retire yet. I got up to like 235. I was yoked. I was, probably pushing the most weight probably that I ever did. But I was slow. And when we started doing those Z races on the basketball court in the off season, I was just like huffing and puffing. Never got back to that weight, thankfully. So, all right. Last memory. Bob McLaren, Bobby Mack, episode 39, guess. Your senior year sparring partner at the inside linebacker position. Lane is the definition of a leader and a Navy football player. Lane's coming out party. Notre Dame versus Navy his sophomore year. He arrived that day and solidified his spot as a starter for his career. Remember that?
Yeah,
What happened?
absolutely. Oh man. Uh, well, that game was a great game. Fuck. Let's see. Well, I had started a couple games before then, and but I hadn't had like a really great game. But that was my first really good game. I just made a lot of tackles. One thing about that game, it was a very close game. I remember Kyle uh, Eckel. He
Yeah, I want to get him on here too at some point. So you
Yeah,
got to
you
talk
got
him
to get
into it.
him. Oh, I got some names for you, by the way.
Awesome.
That I would love to hear on the show,
I want to hear it.
but maybe at the end. Don't forget to remind me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Kyle, he blew out his ACL in the first half, and then I don't remember how many yards he had, but he played the rest of the game with one ACL, and we took him to the very end, and uh, they won on the last freaking play, which I consider my fault. I will never forgive myself for that. Um,
Why? What happened?
well, what happened actually? Well, the drive before they were going in, and they were on like the 1 yard line, and they were they gave it. They had a big old fullback. I think his Powers Neal or something like that. His name was, but they just give it to them like 3 times in a row, and on the third one, uh, I hit him at the goal line as hard as I possibly could with my head down, and he scored. But I remember trying to get up, and my body wouldn't move. So, and I was like momentarily paralyzed there for a
Ooh.
little bit, and so I was like, that was a scary part. And then eventually I was able to roll over, and then I got up and I was fine. I don't know. It was I thought it was fine, but and I wanted to get back in the game obviously on the next series, which ended up I think being the last series. Um, and I they they said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm okay. Let's go." And they put me back in, but I don't I probably wasn't 100% there. Like I missed that play they scored on. Um, they threw uh, number 3 on a seam route. It was either 2 or 3, but it was my guy that I was supposed to jam. And then we were in cover 2, and I didn't jam him. I let him run right by me, which I never do. But I did that play, and he just split our safeties. I didn't get enough time for Josh to get over, and he caught the ball and took it to the house. Freaking beat us on that game play. And
Gotcha.
so yeah, I had a great game. I made a lot of plays, but I didn't make the play that counted.
Understand. I can never cover. Buddy Green will tell you that. Um, gotcha. Let's see where we leave off. All right. Next one from Bobby Mack was that you were always prepared. He defined preparation as the key to success. Examples. You personally witnessed you organize a fishing tackle box for hours, I guess, before y'all were going out or
I
something.
still do that.
Hey, when we're on the clock, we're only on the clock on that water for so long. I need to know where everything is. I did the
Yes,
same thing. It's like,
dude,
don't
I
waste
am
a
a
cast.
nut about organizing my tackle. It's insane. I got the
Yeah,
label maker. Now I've even taken it to another crazy level. But
nice,
Bobby should see my shed now. Now I have a shed like all decked out with fishing gear.
nice, and labeled up. Um, he said that you were the only one we had to wait on to create a full menu of audibles in PlayStation for NCAA football.
That's funny. I forgot about that.
He also said, and the hours in the game plan / film um, studying, and always in the right position on the gridiron. Uh, Guy has a heart of a lion, undersized, smallest inside backer in the NCAA. 200 pounds soaking wet. So he gave you 200. Uh, a fierce competitor that, wouldn't take no for an answer and wasn't afraid to call out his teammates who faltered at times um, to state, of an average performance. And when I read that, I was thinking back in my memory bank of the Michael Jordan series,
Yeah,
right? MJ, right? Hey, step up. Let's go.
dude. I I've been lucky enough to be a part of like two turnarounds of programs, football programs, one in high school and then in Navy. And I could tell you, I mean, that's what it takes is player accountability. You
Yep.
any team, you, it's got to be player led, and that's what we were. And that's how we turned
Agreed.
it around. There's no other way. I mean, in our eyes, like we we didn't play for Coach Johnson. Like Coach Johnson coached for us. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he'd tell you the same thing. And that's what I give Coach Johnson so much credit for because that's the way he wanted it, and he was an expert at creating that.
Yep.
Uh, did you play for Coach PJ?
I did. He left my after, I guess, sophomore year, going into junior year. But uh,
Yeah.
sophomore into
So
junior.
I
Yep.
remember, the first one of the first things that he said to us, like, you want to keep getting your ass whooped? Keep practicing like that. Like
Yep.
and every time he talked to us, it was always you. I guess I was more used to coaches saying we, us, but he drew a very distinct line between the coaches and the players and made it very clear that him and his staff were bringing their A game. So if you're not going to win, it's on you. And
Yep.
uh, and he made no excuses for us. Undersized, didn't matter. Um, and he just did a great job of that. I try to be like that when I coach, but
Yeah.
he that's what we were. You guys, have you seen the Swamp Kings?
I did.
Oh my
Yes.
God! Every brother in the Brotherhood has to watch that. If you haven't
Yes.
seen that,
I agree.
Swamp Kings, like if you don't have goosebumps, the entire freaking what was it, the first or second one where Siler or I forget his name already, but the
The
linebacker,
backer.
yeah,
Yes.
And he's talking about hitting dudes in the face if they were showed up late or to
Yes.
put their feet down. I mean, that's how we
Yeah. So
were, dude.
he was
Yes.
the senior during the turnaround, right? And he had that mentality, and he was that guy. He was the MJ um, of that kind of turn there. And there was a younger guy, Sykes, that didn't quite get it yet.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
he
No, it was oh, I'm not gonna remember his name. I won't even the CTE stuff.
Brandon
I'm not gonna remember. Brandon Spikes. Brandon Spikes.
Spikes. It was
Yeah.
Spikes. Yeah. And he kind of like turned his head at it in the beginning. He's like, I'm a boss. Like I'm walking into this. I got the talent. I'm not getting the time. But he didn't get the time until he figured
Well,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I am a believer of like you don't need the entire team to be the ultimate competitor. You just need like a core, and the rest will fall into place and follow suit. Like, and
Yeah.
but at Navy we didn't even have a core. We had a bunch of dudes. We had a bunch of competitors, and that's what it took, man. I mean, and Paul
Yeah.
Johnson, if you cared about anything other than winning, he ran you off. So, and we
Yep.
loved him for it. And I mean, he literally ran you off.
I would
And
say I also appreciated that about Paul Johnson. I like, working for someone like that. I like being
yeah,
on a team with a coach like that just pushes you to get better. And for that, I'm
and
appreciative.
and we loved him for it, right? We didn't want anybody on the team that didn't care about anything other than winning. So
Yep.
goodbye.
If
We're
this
happy.
doesn't fit, get off the bus, right?
All right.
Cool. A few more things out of Bobby, and then I turn it over to you. Tell a story. So Bobby said, guy is different, disciplined, and driven. Love for the game, love for the grind, love for his brothers. Playing next to him was the highlight of my career. So that closes out the memory section.
Uh, I say the same thing. I say the same thing about Bobby. Playing next to him, it was a privilege. And all of those guys, man. But Bobby, playing next to him was like nobody could ever take that away from me.
No doubt. And I'm also appreciative that he was our coach in Naps. Glad he spent that
You
extra
know
year
him.
at
Then
Naps
you
because
know
if
him.
he,
He talk about different. Well, you already did the podcast. Bobby is Bobby Mack, man. They broke the mold when they made Bobby Mack.
yeah, the only time I can get a hold of that guy is usually around 4:30 in the morning while he's doing his
Before
hill
he starts
sprints.
his wind sprints, yeah. He's gonna
Yeah,
got
no doubt. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us the Lane Jackson story, and we'll go
okay.
from there.
Let's see. I mean, you're gonna have to ask me a question. I don't think my story's too interesting.
I like asking people how they grew up. I think that's a
Oh,
big part of what landed you at Navy in the first place. So it's always fun to explore.
all
I mean,
right.
tell us a little bit more about how you grew up.
I grew up in Miami, Florida. Um, I had a good childhood. Uh, just played. I had a great neighborhood where you played outside the whole time, and so, I don't know when I got hyper competitive, but it happened early, and played on a good football team, and I knew I wanted. At that age, you think you're going pro, but I knew um, I either wanted to go pro or I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. So, and then Navy came knocking, so I said, oh, well, okay. That's like best of
Nice.
both worlds, one or
So
the
you
other.
already knew that you wanted to go Navy SEALs.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool.
Because that looks so cool, right? And you love the challenge. Uh, can you do it or not, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But let's see. Went to went to Naps. I chose to go to Naps. I had the option. I wanted a year to get bigger and faster. Um, Very glad I did. That's where I met two of the best friends I'll ever have in my life, Bobby and TJ. Um, and a bunch of other friends that that you never forget. Like, oh man, Jerry Wayne Irons. Gosh, he's one of those dudes that you never talk to, but you could call up and like I would feel like I could just talk to him like nothing, no time has passed, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I mean that's how the brotherhood is. Like I'm the worst. I'm the worst at like social media and staying connected. I don't have any. I don't go on Facebook or LinkedIn or anything like that. But honestly, all these guys, I feel like I could just call them up right now and talk to them and chat them up and like nothing ever happened. You know,
Nice.
uh, got so much love for everybody.
Who who re- who?
Tunde was another
Oh,
one.
I missed a memory.
Go ahead.
Speaking of him, I actually he's coming up on an episode,
Yes, yes.
so you got to shoot me some memories. And
I'll give you some.
I
I'll
you
give you some
just
right now.
go for it.
Oh man,
You might check
he
off this memory I was about to throw
he
out there.
he
So
was so strong. He was the strongest dude I have ever seen, right? And
I believe it.
at Naps, w- we go and we're doing bench. We're doing bench, and I was good bencher, so I was competing with him for like I was trying to be the best bencher on the team, and he was the other guy, and we put up 315. I put it up 10 times. And then he
Goodness.
gets up there and he puts on 315 and he does it 10 times. And they're like, "Oh, all right, well, you guys tied." I'm like, "No, we didn't tie. Did you see what he
There are no
basically
ties.
he had never lifted before. Like he didn't know how to lift. So he like grabs the bar almost like for the first time. It wasn't the first time, but like he grabs the bar at like where he puts his wrist like almost like where his nipples are. Like it's like a
So
close grip. He close gripped 315 10 times. Like
goodness.
easy. And
Yeah.
then once he figured out how to lift, dude, he was so strong.
Yeah. Darius Terry was our class guy like that, and he was the
Yeah,
smallest guy on the team.
yeah. We had uh C Harris. You got have you heard that name?
It rings
C
a bell.
C Harris was this little bowling ball of a B-back, and he was the shortest guy in NCAA. I think he was like 5'1" or something, or five flat. He was really short, really stocky, but incredibly strong. He would put so many bars on, or so many plates on the bar, like that it was looked like it was going to snap. I think he had like six on each side, and he
Yep.
would he would just rep out squats until like
That's how Darius was. Yep.
they just had to tell him to stop. Like you just keep going. Like he could just squat 600 pounds for like it was incredible. But anyway, um, Tunde. So going on, once Tunde learned, he used to, and then me and TJ and all the linebackers, we're all skinny and we're trying to get the bet. We got the best technique, right, to try to maximize the weight that we can get up, and we're power cleaning. I don't remember what it was, like three something, but and we look over and you just see Tunde, no technique, doing the same weight we're doing, but he's just like reverse curling it. Like a power clean.
Yep.
He just like stands up, like all slow, and just go wah, like with
Yeah.
315.
Muscles it.
I remember rooming with him. When I was in the teams in Virginia Beach, I roomed with him for like a year or something. Um, and he'd come back one day. So I just got done lifting. I'm like, oh yeah, how much you lift? It's like, well, these jokers were messing around. I had to show them what's up. I'm like, well, what'd you lift? He said, I just put on four plates. how many times you do it? He's like, I stopped at 10. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. After like 2 years of not working out,
Yeah.
he was a
He has
monster.
that. Yeah. He has that
And then,
strength.
and then really, he finally, I was, it sounds stupid to say you're proud of him, but I really was. But he really put it all together his senior year. Um,
Yeah.
he was kind of he was good, but not really good before that. But his senior year, and I think you heard the story already. I think you already heard it on here. But the whole thing with Coach Johnson in the paper, like said, looks like Tarzan plays like Jane one day, and then he Tunde read that,
Uh-oh.
and he all we knew is that he like there was like a whiteboard in the weight room, and there was a hole in it. Like you just heard him scream and yeah, and then punch a hole through, and we're like, oh, he must have read the article.
Nice.
And apparently he had it out with PJ, but he put it all together after that article.
Yeah.
He was a changed man.
There's something to that whole PJ leadership style that
Yeah,
works
but
sometimes.
he was Tunde was single-handedly the reason why our defense worked. Like,
Nice.
we were
Yeah.
three
He's
four,
so
right? He anchored the whole thing.
yes. So the nose tackle for the group that doesn't know, like uh, who we're talking about is Babatunde Akinbimi.
Sorry,
We
yeah,
call him Bimmy, Coach Bimmy. I think y'all call him Tunde.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, the guy was an anchor in that whole 3-4 scheme that we ran the whole time we were there. You got to have a solid nose. The nose makes the
yeah,
defense,
yeah.
and he was that guy. So the memory that I miss was when Bobby asked me to ask you if you recall um, when you called Bimmy out in preseason camp for lying on the field that you knew he had so much potential.
Well, yeah, everybody knew it.
Yeah,
Guy was a monster.
for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, Back into the story. What took you to Naps? Like, who recruited you?
Oh, okay. So what took even okay, so I was kind of like on the fence, should I go to Navy or not? I had an offer from Harvard, um, because
Goodness.
my high school coach had previously coached there, so he was like, yeah, he got me in to Harvard, but I wanted to go to the biggest school I possibly could, and Navy was the biggest school. I thought I had a
Yeah.
couple preferred walk-ons, which I had supreme confidence in myself. I felt like I could have gone anywhere and that I wanted, but whether that was right correct or not, probably not.
Didn't
But
we all back then?
I
Yeah.
thought so. So, but I remember Coach Ware. He gave me that book, Civil War. Have you read that one? John
Yep.
Feinstein.
Yes, sir.
So that's what locked me in, man. Once I read that book and I had goosebumps every other page, like, okay, this is where I need to go. Um,
Nice.
and that would be great, by the way, if you could get some of the heroes from that book on here.
Yeah. I just
Those
it's
are
all
those are
about.
my heroes, man. Joe Speed,
Yes. I
Jimmy
don't have his
Rossmeyer.
contact info. I would reach out to him.
Shoot, I might have it. I saw him at a Miami game when he was coaching Georgia Tech one time, and he gave me his phone number.
Nice.
I'll
Don't need it
send it
right
to you.
now. We'll
Yeah,
get it
all
later.
right, I'll send it to you.
That'd be
If I
great.
still have it, I should find
He
it.
was our coach at Naps, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was a badass.
no doubt.
Um, all right, so then I read that book and said, okay, that's where I'm going. And thank God, I met gained entrance to the best brotherhood there is, and the rest is then the time at Navy. Um, wouldn't replace it for anything in the world. Um, graduated. I got to do TAD. I hung around for a little bit. I
Hold on one second. I want to bring you back during that Navy time and ask, do you have a good coach story? I bring that up in episodes. Just out of template purposes
A
because it's
good
fun
coach
for me.
story.
Yeah, like a good PJ saying, or like, I remember this time when this coach did this thing.
Um, yeah, I mean, there was the Black the Black
Black
Wednesday,
Friday.
Black Friday
Yeah.
that Beardo started. I love that episode by Beardo, by the way.
Yeah,
He was so interesting. Like I haven't
he
talked to him
is.
in years. He was very interesting. But there was that. I don't know. I feel like you probably heard them all already on this podcast.
Did you have
My,
a favorite PJ quote that we
yeah,
don't know
my
about?
you know about it. But my favorite was if you ever find yourself on the field, call timeout because somebody fucked up.
Oh yes, that's good.
That's a
How
good
about
one.
a favorite game? Was it that Notre Dame game?
No, no. My favorite game by far would have been Air Force
Air
senior year.
Force.
We up there,
Yes.
we won 24-21, and that was a nail biter. We won on last
They
minute
always
field goal.
are.
Yeah.
They always are. And every now and then I'll get a wild hair and I look at the spread at the Navy Air Force game, and whoever's favored on the high end, I always go with the other one just because I know it's going to be close. The
That
emotions just change for that one.
the what?
The emotions.
Oh yeah, no. Like I got nothing but love for Army. Nothing but love and respect. I love, you know, I'd see players when I was overseas that played at Army that they had that really good linebacker number four. Uh, he was a junior when I was a senior. I saw he ended up being an Army Ranger. I got to work with him overseas. I got
Awesome.
nothing but uh, love for Army guys, but Air Force guys, I just, you know, it's something
There's a
about
different type of cockiness to Air Force
yeah,
back then.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um, anyway, yeah, we that was a hell of a game. I remember Aaron Polanco rolling out and hitting Marco Nelson on that long 30 something yard. I think it was fourth down and put us in field goal range. I had a great game that game. Jeremy Chase had a great game. I had like that was my best game ever. I had 24 tackles.
Jeremy Chase is another one I want to get on here.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Um, while we're in this season, before we get into your transition to the Seals, is the 2004 Emerald Bowl. All right,
Oh
so
man.
that was it the first bowl game in a long time?
No, we
It
had
was
the first bowl game we won in a
first
long
bowl game
time.
that was won in a long
Yeah, because
time.
we played the year before in the Houston Bowl. We got our tails whooped by Wes Welker and company. When we played Mike Leach, we played Texas Tech,
Yeah,
and Mike
I
Leach was
like Leach.
I
I
loved him.
liked.
He
Yeah,
was he was like the passing version of Paul Johnson. They were both kind of like that's how I always thought of them, you know.
I my most recent episode before this one is my old high school coach, and he was talking about the coaches that he looked up to. He said, "I really wish I would have met Leach."
Yeah.
So,
Um,
um,
yeah,
but that game was versus the New Mexico Lobos.
it
Both
was
teams,
memorable.
yeah, Emerald Bowl. Both teams had top rushing offensives. So, like, that's a dream for a Navy linebacker, I think,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least my perspective. Navy ends that year ranked number 24 in the nation.
Yeah.
That's
Man,
pretty cool.
really proud
Um,
of that. Yeah.
yeah, no doubt. Um, the bowl game also hit around the time that a teammate, J.P. Blecksmith, was killed in the Second Battle of Fallujah in the Iraq War.
Yeah.
You remember carrying that into that game with some extra
Um,
willpower into it, or
yeah. God, that was, you know, I think, you know, we were the last class. I think we were the last class to sign up uh, before 9/11 hit, and or one of the last classes. But you know, so you know, when we signed up, it was you know, war wasn't really in the cards. Like we did, at least I wasn't thinking of it. But yeah, that soon as the 9/11 hits and shit gets real, and it's exciting. You say, okay, we're training for a purpose, but comes with loss as well, and it's very, very sad.
Yeah, no doubt. I always remember the blacksmith awards at the
Yeah.
banquet and how important that was. So, all right, on to transition. You go into the SEALs. How did that
Mhm.
go?
Um, fine. Let's see.
Yeah, tell us about the real Buds experience first, I
The
guess,
real Buds
because I wanted
experience.
to ask you about that. Yeah. So,
Okay, I
well,
mean, well, none of it was hard. Like I said before, I kept comparing everything to the first fourth quarters that we ever had, and it took about, I don't know, 6 weeks into first phase or four weeks into first phase before we did this one evolution that it was I um all you do is you get your fire team there and or your boat crew
yeah,
and
and the fire team is what, 4 guys, right?
yeah, well, actually it was called the boat crew, but there was
Boat
like
crew,
4 or 6 guys,
four
and
or
we're
six.
we're on a log, and everybody was on a log, and you're just carrying a log on your chest like like this. That's it. And you're just walking around, you're going down the beach about a quarter mile over the berm, which was, I don't know, 15 feet high, then down the beach in the soft sand, then over the berm, and you did one lap, and you're like, okay, I got this, no problem. And after 5 minutes, you're good, no problem, I got it. And then like 7 minutes in, you're like, oh, this is gonna hurt a little bit. And then 9 minutes in, you're like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Like you're like burnt, you're on fire, and so like 10 minutes in, you just don't know how you're gonna like take the next step, and then you keep going for another 50 minutes. you know, like
Yeah,
we spent over an hour doing that, and the whole time was just like every step you're like overcoming that. Holy shit, I didn't think I was gonna make that step, and I made another one, and I made another one, and that's what Buds is. It teaches you that 90% of your limitations or more are placed on you by your own mind. And that is 100% true. Like, Buds is not physical, it is 100% mental.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
so Buds, that's what it's all mental, you know? I mean, you look at I watched like huge overweight guys make it through that you would not think could make it just physically, but it's 100% mental, all of it.
Yeah.
And the other really tough. So that was a tough one. And I had one other experience, one other evolution in Buds that really pushed me. That was um, treading water. They have an evolution where you suit up, you jock up with tanks and a weight belt, and you get in the pool.
When you say
And
jock up, you put all your gear on for
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Put all your gear on, and you get in the pool and you start treading water. You have fins, right? So it's not a big deal. You're treading water, but your hands have to be out of the water. So as soon as your your hand goes underwater, you're disqualified.
Disqualified.
Right.
Not just like strike
Well,
one,
no, you
disqualified.
you would fail that evolution,
Okay.
and then you get 3 chances to pass the evolution. If you don't pass after the third time, you get kicked out of the program.
Gotcha.
Um, but so in the water's different. The water everybody deals with differently. Some guys do water evolutions, no problem. They'll pass them all day, and they never have a problem with it. Some guys just flat out cannot do them, and they will just fail out. And then for me, it just like hit me just right because I wasn't really good, but I was, good enough to pass. But I remember this evolution. I'm treading water, um, And it's just like I said before, like the first, you only have to do it for 5 minutes,
Five
which
minutes.
that's easy, right? Or maybe it was 10. I don't
Well,
even remember.
you know what I'm going to do? I'm
But
going to go try it at some point. It'll probably take me
but
30 seconds, but
the the first like 10 seconds you're like I got this. And the next 20 seconds you're like, "Oh man, this is going to be tough." And then the next 10 seconds you don't know how you're going to do it and you're like fighting for every breath. And just remember kicking as hard as I possibly could to make sure like I'm underwater, making sure that my hands don't go underwater and I can't breathe. And it came a point where I was like, okay, the mind game is like at any time you could end your suffering just by using your hands because treading water with your hands is easy. Um, but so the mind game is like I had to make that decision that I was going to drown first before I used my hands. So that and then once you overcome something like that, that you're willing to like to do that, then everything else is pretty easy.
awesome.
But
So a couple of the
right.
podcasts I listen to are obviously Jocko, Link Babe, and
Oh yeah.
you know. Did you ever have any interaction with those guys?
I met Jocko once. He's a
Okay.
stud. I heard a lot about him. Clint Clint Bruce,
Yep.
if I could be wrong about this, but I believe when Clint Bruce was an OIC, officer in charge of a platoon, I think Jocko was his AOIC, assistant officer in charge, like a
Oh my
JO.
gosh, I need to call Clint.
I
I have a dream of getting to like do a podcast with Jocko at some point.
Yeah, that would be awesome because
That would be fun.
he had a great reputation in the teams. I saw went to one of his talks or a debriefing, I think it was. But I had heard a lot about him, and Clint told me about him. But yeah, I think I met him once, but that was it. Um,
Nice. So Clint Bruce for the group is another podcast episode guest that I got on here.
yes.
Thankfully, he was so gracious. He was at I think his daughter's volleyball tournament or something, and he went out to his truck and talked to me for a little bit. Also, a Navy football linebacker. Also, a SEAL, um, and doing really good things today. So that was definitely a big milestone in my journey of doing this was to get
Clint
him on here because
Clint helped me out a lot.
awesome.
When he found out I was trying to go SEALs, he reached out and we connected, and he got me in touch with a SEAL that had also been a football player uh, that was living in um, San Diego at the time, and I couldn't go to mini buds, whatever. But they got me out there, and I was able to do some stuff. But it showed good on my review board, and ultimately helped get me selected. So I'm eternally grateful to Clint and Steve Holly for that.
Awesome. So that's the Buds experience. Tell us more about the SEAL journey for you.
Um, okay, I I did. I was stationed at Team 8, and I I did a quick like 3 month deployment to Baghdad. Um, and helped out with another team that was deployed because my team was in a I think they were in pro dev and just a part of the cycle that I couldn't join up with my platoon yet. So they
Yeah.
sent me overseas, and I did a 3 month stint there. Came back, did a whole workup with my platoon, my first platoon, and then we got deployed again to Baghdad for 6 months. I ended up hurting my back. That was terrible. It was not like a wound or anything. I slipped a disc um, doing something mundane, but I actually had to sit out like a month or two of the first part of the deployment because I couldn't even walk. It was terrible. But then I saw a doctor. He got me fixed up, and I started you know going on ops and
Cortisol shot?
no, luckily
Okay.
I met the doctor that knew what to
Or
do, and
Toradol?
he got it was amazing. I had uh, when I had like a part of my disc bulging and hitting up against the spinal cord, so I could barely walk.
Yeah.
He said, "Hey, what side is it? Okay, sleep on this side." And this is like after a month of being in pain where I could barely walk. And then he says, "Well, tonight, put this pillow here and sleep on that all night." I wake up the next day, I could stand straight up. I have no pain. It was amazing.
That's awesome. When you find doctors like that, they're
Yeah,
like, just do this thing
yeah,
differently and you'll be all right. Like
I know. So
that's
what
where it's at.
had opened up my vertebrae so the bulge can kind of recede and get off of my spinal cord, and it was fine. And I just like another few weeks of rehab, and I was back at it. It was awesome.
Goodness. How'd the back injury happen,
Oh
if you
God,
don't mind me
that's
asking?
embarrassing.
Oh, okay. Did you just like fall down or something?
No, it was the first day of deployment. I literally parked my car at the team, like where it was going to stay for the next 6 months. I was getting on the plane that day to go overseas. I like dropped my keys, bent it over to get them, and it went. I
I got you.
just
Hey, that's not embarrassing because sometimes, like, something will happen. I'll jerk my neck to the side too fast, and I mean, I can walk still because it's my neck, but my neck gets stiff for the next, I don't know, couple weeks
Yeah, dude.
just from that one jerk. It's probably the bone spurs.
You gotta getting old. You gotta be tough getting old, man, because
Yeah,
everything gets harder.
no doubt. I'm working through it right now. So, gotcha. Anything else in that
Uh, um, no, I
team?
enjoyed my time in the teams. It was never, though, for me, like it was never going to be like the book of my life. Like I got so much respect for those guys that just stay in and do it, and they're just like the ultimate warriors, man. They live and breathe and eat it. Like that's all they want to do is be like the consummate warrior, and I got so much respect for that. That just wasn't in my mind at the time. So
Any any standouts that you had on that team? You don't have to mention any names, but about a person and what made them good at what they did there.
the teams, it's just like Navy football. It's like a brotherhood of a bunch of freaking guys that are not incredible athletes. They're just dudes that won't quit for nothing. They're all competitors.
Yeah, the
And
ones that made it through the swim test.
yeah, right. And they're just guys just like Navy linebackers, man. They just overachieving, hardworking guys that tough dudes. Um, it was great. I got I one of a lot of guys and the teams come from like played football, but I was actually making this point today to one of my kids on my team, on my high school team, who was thinking about going D3, and I was telling him playing D3 is awesome because you're not playing with the studs that get a scholarship because all the talent in the world. You're playing with the dudes that just love football and love to
Yeah,
work and will do anything to get on the field. Like that's the dudes
yeah.
you want to play with. It doesn't matter
That
what level.
that makes me think of the quarterback that kicked our ass my sophomore year, I think, or Joe Flacco,
Oh, Delaware.
Delaware.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh! First
yeah,
game of the year supposed to be. I'm not going to say a cakewalk because you're not. The mentality going into that is nothing's a cakewalk, right? But the first game is kind of like a confidence builder. You play a Division II team, and the expectation is you come out on top, you're ready for the second game, get the momentum going. and he just kicked our ass. And he had a team, and those were some of the toughest offensive linemen. Them in Pittsburgh for me, that I ever played against. Those offensive linemen wanted it. They were just nasty.
Yeah, man. We lost to Delaware too. My junior year, and then our senior year we got payback and we beat them up. But
Well,
um,
you remembered it
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
for sure.
Um, but yeah, the team going back, the teams are full of guys like that. And one of the best operators I ever knew was in that first platoon. Um, he played at Amherst, and he was a badass. He ended up actually going to Dev Group and becoming like Sailor of the Year, which is like basically the baddest freaking SEAL
Honored.
on
Yeah.
Earth.
Nice.
So yeah, um, I got yeah, actually there's a cool story where my SEAL brotherhood kind of intertwines with the Navy brotherhood. My that first platoon, I walk in. I don't know. This is gonna go long, but it's a great story.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, we can cut it up into two different parts if we need to.
all right. Uh, so I walk in my first platoon and I meet this E5 there. Great dude. Abe Trindle is his name. And he he it's his third platoon, my first platoon. He just teaching me the ropes, really takes me under his wing to try to like, teach a junior officer. And he was going to Seaman Admiral program. We get to Baghdad and he would find out he gets approved for a Seaman Admiral package. I'm like, oh, that's awesome, Abe.
What does
Well,
that mean?
Seaman Admiral, that's just one of the avenues where an enlisted man becomes an officer.
Okay. Got it.
So um, he finds out, and we're in Baghdad, and he goes to me, I'm going to go to college. I'm like, yeah. So he said, well, I'm going to walk on wherever we're going. Wherever I go, I'm going to walk on. I said, okay, let's start training. What are we waiting for? So we were in Baghdad. Our op tempo was, you go out at night, so we had all day, and we were putting ourselves through 2 days. I was teaching them all the Olympic lifts, and we're out there on the tarmac in biop, just freaking doing wind sprints twice a day. We really got after it, and so he training for him to be able to walk onto a team. So when he goes to his, to OIS, which is the oysters, like you went to Naps, right? So oysters
Yep.
is like right across the way from Naps, and it just happens to be football season. He's like, hey, I'm at Naps. I'm like, wait a second. I
Lackawanna.
I I played with the coach there. So Mick Yokitis was coaching.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
So so
Right.
I said, let me call Mick, and we got him on the team there at Naps. And he wasn't like a Division I athlete, but he's one of the guys. He's gonna work his ass off. He
Tough.
tough dude. He just fit right in, right? So they all loved him. And then after that season, he gets accepted to Purdue, and Mick, being the stand-up guy that he is, he calls the coach of Purdue, gets him on the team. So
Nice.
just, I mean, gets him on the team, but just says, hey, this is the kind of guy that's coming over your program. This is what he's all about. This is the kind of guy you want. He
Yeah.
may
Make
not,
sure to take a look at this one. Yep.
yeah, he's not going to start for you, but he's going to be a
Make
guy.
everybody else better.
Yeah, and he ended up having a great career at Purdue, playing on special teams, and very. So now he's freaking lieutenant commander, troop commander, team 8.
Oh,
So
goodness.
uh,
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool the way that the two brotherhoods combine there.
No doubt. Man, that's a good story. So like that's the type of stuff I'm looking for in these episodes.
Once I got out of the teams, I came back home to Miami, went to work for the family business, which you know uh, have been in business for now over 100 years. We're we're still a small company,
What do you
but
do? So
well, the the company that really put us on the map was U.S. Foundry, and so we were a municipal foundry. So we made um, manhole covers that we melted and poured iron, and we poured it into molds that made municipal castings that
Yeah.
you'll see on the street, right? Mainly manhole covers, sewage grates and drains and stuff like that.
When you told me that, I was thinking, okay, Lane must know some folks in the DoD that need to, put out some budget dollars and do some infrastructure work. Like, does that work?
Uh, we have a very small portion of our business that like monitoring the DoD sites. Um,
Gotcha. So not a
what,
primary
right.
consumer of what you make now.
Right.
Gotcha.
Now, actually, we ended up selling I think it was in 21. We sold the foundry um, to Nina Foundry, and we had become like I would say the third largest municipal foundry in the country. So we're pretty big and covered most of the Southeast United States. And from that company, we had spawned out other companies, so four other companies. Um, and since then, since when I got out in 2011, since then we started consolidating, and now we're just one company. Now we are USF Fabrication, so we sold the foundry. We actually ended up selling it to Nina Foundry, and then who bought Nina Foundry was Charlotte Pipe and Foundry, which TJ Costello, my best friend in the world, he works
Nice.
for Charlotte Pipe. So it's kind of a
Cool.
small little world there. But so now he is based, and he's an officer of that company. So he's basically like working, owns the foundry that my grandfather started like 100 years ago.
Nice. That's fun. Um, the network is, man, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Um,
But um, so now I'm working at USF Fabrication. Have been here for the last 6 years. Going through different roles. I worked my way up from bottom line supervisor. That's uh, now I'm at manager level, but I love it. Um,
why do you
we
love
get
it?
I number one because I'm working for myself. I feel like that is uh, an opportunity that has been given to me. I'm fortunate enough to be handed that opportunity by my family. Um, so when you're working for yourself, you there's no qualms about putting everything in, right? And
Yeah.
um, even to my detriment at sometimes I put too much in, but it's a lot better than working for somebody else. And
Yeah.
but what it allows you to do is put your passion into it, and once you when you put everything in, and then people around you see that passion, and then all of a sudden you got a whole team of passionate people about your business, and it's incredible. Like
Yeah.
um, I, some of my employees they care just as much as me, and it's really a beautiful
ShamWow.
thing. It's a beautiful thing. Um, and but coming to work every day, it's fun. And actually, what I do right now, I'm a project manager, which I chose to be. I actually pulled myself out of another job that was higher up, but I actually
What was that
rather
other
do
job?
this job. Plant manager.
Okay.
Um, Pulled myself off of that because I just had so much more fun working on continuous improvement projects and planning. That's kind of like what I do. I plan. I take things that are out of order. I put them in order. Um, I organize and
ShamWow.
and continuous improvement is the name of the game. That's the only reason why you stay in business for over 100 years. You have to constantly change. So that's
Yep.
basically my job is to, you know, create change and bring us closer to the ideal state.
Yep. I'm gonna try something new here. All right. So I recently watched this podcast with Andrew Huberman and a
Yes.
guy named David Goggins. Yeah. So you know that guy?
I read his book.
Nice.
It took about 50 people telling me to read it before I finally read it.
Yeah. So I've never been like a huge Goggins fan. Like I'd see his thing, stay hard and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. But when he had this, he did a podcast with Huberman, and I saw it. I didn't listen to it. And one day I got bored and I was like, okay, I'll listen to this one. So good.
Really?
So this is my new trick here is trying to figure out how to share screen and share some of this stuff. And um, let's try it out real quick.
So all I thought about when I was growing up is, man, I can't wait to one day get to the point where I no longer have to do this stuff. But what happens, I got older, it became a way of living. So how I do every day is how I do every day. It's a discipline, it's a regimen, it was a choice I made. And the choice I made was, what are you willing to sacrifice and what are you willing to give up to find every bit of who you are as a human being? And I was willing to give up everything to do that. It looks like a man being stuck in a fucking dungeon and there's no fucking way out. But you had the fucking key. But you refuse to use it. And that's nothing motivating about that. So yes, no documentary on David Goggins.
All right.
That
I
is
don't know if it's gonna
that is
tie
fucking
in.
true.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I, I I didn't hear it, but I could read it. But isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
I man, just a side note on David Goggins. I love that quote there. Wasn't really huge on his motivational stuff, but man, what a tough dude that guy is. Oh man, the things
What do you know about him?
just what I read. That's it. Just
Okay.
from the book. Um, but just knowing how tough some of those things are that he did, because I was closer to them, and I'm like what he pulled off there in that when he was trying out for Delta, and he broke that course record. I mean, that course record was set by some studs, like world class athletes, and he crushed it for like an hour or something crazy. Um, that dude is one of the toughest dudes on the planet, 100%. I don't think I would ever get along with him. Just, but, um, and I'm not like one much for like all the motivational quotes, but I got to give it to him, man. That he is something.
Nice. I I got one more I want to share before we close this thing out. Um, and it's based in neuroscience, how the brain works, and all these things that we're talking about, getting tough, getting out of your comfort zone, going that extra mile, all those types of things. Huberman puts in perspective really well. And I also thought that was really good for me personally to kind of understand how um, how things work. So um, I'll go ahead and play that one right now.
Okay.
I'm going to share a little neuroscience tidbit,
Love it.
but I think it's one that you'll appreciate. Most people don't know this, but there's a brain structure called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. As we pointed out before, that's a noun, it's a name, it doesn't mean anything. We could call it the cookie monster.
Right.
But what's interesting about this brain area is there are now a lot of data in humans, not some mouse study, showing that when people do something they don't want to do, like add 3 hours of exercise per day or per week, or when people who are trying to diet and lose weight resist eating something,
Right.
when people do anything that they, and this is the important part, that they don't want to do.
Right.
It's not about adding more work. It's about adding more work that you don't want to do.
Yes.
This brain area gets bigger.
Yep.
Now, here's what's especially interesting about this brain area to me. And by the way, I'm only learning this recently because it's new data, but there's a lot of it. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex is smaller in obese people. It gets bigger when they diet. It's larger in athletes. It's especially large or grows larger in people that see themselves as challenged and overcome some challenge.
Right.
And in people that live a very long time, this area keeps its size. In many ways, scientists are starting to think of the anterior mid-cingulate cortex not just as one of the seats of willpower,
Right.
but perhaps actually the seat of the will to live.
See, now we're talking.
And when I learned about the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, I was like almost out of my seat. And I've been in the neuroscience game since I was 20.
Now
we're the
we're
same
talking.
age. And I was so pumped because I've heard of the amygdala, fear, prefrontal cortex, it's planning and action. I could tell you every brain area and I teach neuroanatomy to medical students. But when I started seeing the data on the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, I was like, whoa, this is interesting.
Yep.
And all the data point to the fact that we can build this area up.
Yep.
But that as quickly as we build it up, if we don't continue to invest in things that are hard for us, that we don't want to do, that's the part that feels so Goggin-esque
Yes, sir.
to me, that we don't want to do. Like if you love the ice bath, yeah, I love the ice bath, and you go from 1 minute to 10 minutes, guess what? Your anterior mid-cingulate cortex did not grow.
None.
But if you hate the cold water, if you're afraid of drowning and you get into water and put your head under,
Yep.
then your anterior mid and survive, then the anterior mid-cingulate cortex gets bigger. But if you don't do it the next day, or if you do it the next day and you enjoy it, because hey, I did it yesterday, woohoo, happy me, Merry Christmas, as you
Right,
would say.
Merry Christmas.
Guess what? The anterior mid-cingulate cortex shrinks again.
Yep.
To me, this is one of the most important discoveries that neuroscience has ever made, because it's that I don't want to do something, but do it anyway.
That's right.
That grows this area. And it's almost like I have a friend, he's been sober 30 years from alcohol. And he always says, you know, the amazing thing about addiction is there's a cure. The problem is it only works one day at a time.
Yep.
And so you have to renew it every day.
That's right.
So the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, to me, when I learned about it, two things went off in my head. Whoa, this is super interesting. And two, I got to tell David Goggins about this. And I waited until now
glad.
to tell you because I felt like well, for obvious reasons, I wanted to tell you and I wanted to tell you here.
Well, I love that because that's how I've lived my entire life. I don't know anything about that. But people go, man, you have such a strong will. It's something that you build. Like, I never forget, I was on a podcast one time, and this dude goes, you were blessed with a strong mind. Like, the hell are you talking about? I was blessed with a strong mind. That's something that you have to develop. You develop that over years, decades of suffering and going back into the suffer. That's why a lot of people who graduate Navy SEAL training, they want to know, like, I talk about it very openly all the time. A lot of guys don't want to go back into that water. Don't want to go back into the hard stuff. It maybe not anything hard in life. Once you get through it, it's like you become a POW. Like, how many POWs want to go back to POW camp? None. When something sucks so bad in life, this is on this that we're talking about now, very few people want to go back. They're happy they graduated. I realized I'm the same way. I don't want to go back. I have to go back. I must go back because that is exactly where all the knowledge of my life exists, was back there and what you're talking about. Well, I didn't know anything about this, but how I grew a will was constantly doing these things. To now, it's just life. I wake up, while it still sucks, it's just life. You don't sit back and like, oh my God, like I have days I don't want to do it, but I know I'm going to do it. I know from years of just doing it. So that's beautiful. And this is why I came on here with you today. And I'm glad that you're talking about this, because human beings need to hear this. They need to stop hearing these hacks on this and that. There's no fucking hack, bro. There's no fucking hack. Yeah, you may this and that and saunas and all this shit yeah, it's great. There is no fucking life hack. To grow that thing, how do you grow it? Do it and do it and do it and do it. That's the hack. The hack is gonna fucking suck. And that's what I realized. That's what I realized. Life, that's why I wanted to come on here today. I didn't want to come on here and talk about no fucking passion and purpose and how to get the fuck out of bed and how to hit a fucking alarm clock and all this catchphrase bullshit. Because that wasn't how I lived. That wasn't how I lived. I woke up like every human being does and goes, fuck, man, I'm a fucking piece of shit today. How the hell is this going to work out for me? And you fight that. You don't override it. There's no override button. It's the conversation in your fucking, in your head. So how do you do that? We don't have enough of these conversations about the real conversation that every human being is having. And they have no idea how to get out of it, but they do. It's that shit right there, man. You gotta build your will. How do you build your will? Exactly what you said, man. Exactly what you said.
Well, I feel like knowing the name of something, anterior mid-cingulate cortex, doesn't fundamentally change us. But one thing I like about biology is that willpower, if somebody feels they don't have it, feels like this thing that other people have. But everybody, unless they're brain damaged, like a hole through their head, has two anterior mid-cingulate cortex, one on each side of their brain. Everyone has one. They have two. So I feel like it's just a question of opening the portal. And the portal, I'm going to say 10 times and forgive me, is I think people go, oh, I do hard things. I do sets to failure, and then I do forced reps. I love training with weights. I love doing sets to failure. I even like forced reps. But guess what? I like forced reps. So I'll tell you, they don't build my anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Right.
No, I mean, I couldn't hear it.
Gotcha.
But
all right, I'll send you the video.
you want to sum it up for me? I don't know.
It's around doing hard things. And every time you do something hard, it grows this space in your brain in a positive way versus taking the easy way out. So I'll send it to you. Man, I wish you could have heard it.
Well, I'll look it up. I follow Huberman. I don't listen to every one of his, but I could look it up.
Well, I'll send you the short so you can get the general gist of where I was going with this, because I think your story matches it, and that's why I pulled it up. So anyways, when you moved from the military into what you're doing now, were there any good transition learnings? Or, something that you remember during that transition time?
I remember it, in the military, we go through so much training on how to lead, and you go to, and it's great, and you learn the basics, but what I got from it, maybe I was overly impressionable, but I felt like I had to follow a very strict line to be the perfect leader, and I wasn't good at it. I didn't think, at least in the service, I wasn't. On the football field, it was different. But
why do you think that, though?
That's a good question. If I just to take a stab at it right now, I guess I would say because I cared more about others at Navy football. Like I played for my brothers, And going through SEAL training, like you know, you go through, you create a bond with everybody and everything, and through the stuff that you go through. But you're comparing like 6 months of buds versus like 4 or 5 years, right? I didn't have that much of a connection, I guess, with all the team members like I said, like I would at at Navy football, right? So maybe it was that I just was too self-involved. It was definitely a learning experience. I just I w- I was also caught up on trying to lead, going back to what I was saying before, I was caught up on trying to lead a certain way and transitioning out of the service. I felt that freedom where, you know what, I know how to lead, but I could do it my way.
Shamwow.
And I really fell into my own skin, so to speak, and felt that I was actually, you know, a better leader as a civilian than I was in the service, because I was just doing it the way I would have felt natural to me. Um,
Gotcha.
and that, so growing into that and kind of stepping out of, you know, the the chain of command, like the chain of command, and actually I just hired a prior service member, and I'm trying to like get him to calm down and trying to say, you know, listen, work with people instead of just telling him what to do. Because he's like, where do I fall in the hierarchy? And I'm like, no, here now you got to make things work no
Yeah.
matter where you are in the hierarchy.
It's a level playing field here.
Yeah,
You
like,
have to be able to influence, lead by
hmm
example, fighter leader, all those things,
yeah,
and let time catch on to that.
you've
Right?
got to be able to get people to do things because they want to do them, not because you say they have to do them, right?
Yep.
It almost provides a crutch in the military, because orders are orders and you do what you're told. And it needs to be that way, and especially in the crunch time of war. You cannot have anybody second guessing a command decision. Has to be that way. But in the civilian world, adjusting to that more collaborative working environment, that took an adjustment period. And but I by now I think I got a good handle on it. I really enjoy the way you know, our team works together now. It's fun.
Nice. Good stuff. Um, do you have a favorite mentor or best couple mentors that stand out to you?
I'm bad at that. I don't know. My mentor is TJ Costello. Uh, i- if I have a problem that I can't figure out, I go to him. Him and my wife. But that man is incredibly impressive. What he has done, uh, I can't even begin to try to describe what he's been able to accomplish in his civilian life. Like, what he does on the day to day, like, blows me away. Um,
Gotcha.
just working multiple jobs at one point, while getting his master's, um, and then rising to the top of a very good company, in such a short time. It's what he's done is incredible, and the way he's carried his family throughout of all of it at the same time, it's just, he blows me away. So if anybody's my mentor, it's just my best friend. That's who I go to. That's who I look to for leadership. And but
Nice.
I still, I talk to him about once a week at least.
Need to get TJ on here soon.
Yeah,
That's what it
yeah.
sounds like. Um, two more questions. Um, First one is, what's the current struggle that you're working through today or as of recent?
Um, I just got through one of the bigger struggles of my life, and to be honest, I was on the fence about sharing this. It's not something I enjoy talking about, but I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, if if what I say can help somebody, a brother, then there's an off slight chance that some other brother of mine is going through the same thing, and what I say might help. Then what the hell? But I just went through a pretty serious depression. Nothing crazy. I never felt like off in myself, so it wasn't that bad. But to me, it was, I went to places that I didn't know existed. You know what I mean? And it's kind of tedious talking about it because I used to hear people talk about it and not really understand but once you go through it, something like that, and you're taken to places that you didn't know existed, it becomes real. It gets real. And I was there for far too long, I think. And I guess my point in saying this and even bringing it up would be, if anybody out there is feeling that, don't let it go that far, because uh, I guess I think, a lot of us, not I think I know, uh, from talking to a lot of us in the Brotherhood, that we are like susceptible, I think, just from the lifestyles that we lived before and transitioning um, into. It's a huge change. I mean, you have to think about it. We ran off of pure testosterone and adrenaline for how many years, right? Like all the way, high school, you're on testosterone. That gets you through. College, same. And then you go into the service and it's adrenaline. Like it's go, 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 high speed. And that's what you learn to live with. And then you get out and you get a new job and bam, high speed. I'm hitting it hard. And it's still going, but there comes a time where things start settling down, and
Yeah. After the age of 30, your whole testosterone thing drops off, like,
it
I want to
it
say
hits everybody
5 or something
different
percent. Yeah.
at different times, but um, it I think it's probably just from the lifestyles that we have led. I think it's probably more prevalent than we want to admit in the Brotherhood. I know from talking to some people, but I guess don't do what I did. Like just wait until it got so bad that it was affecting your family, and just I didn't start getting the help I needed until I reached out. So just reach out and get the help that you need. I mean, we're all here and everybody's got loved ones. The thing is that I learned is that we're all flawed, right? There's not a single one of us that don't have a weakness or flawed. So I was,
ShamWow.
and so we all know that we all got flaws. So that's why we're all so willing to help, because we know that we could be there too. I was very ashamed of it because I was of the mind that, I wasn't like super sick, where I had like, I didn't feel like I was like a victim of a chemical imbalance. I really believe that I put myself there through my actions or inactions, my thought patterns, which had degraded over the years. And I mean, thoughts are so powerful. Um, they
Yep.
are they are what thoughts are everything, right? So they make the world around you. So I had I truly believe that my own thought patterns my had degraded to where I was thinking about things differently, and that ultimately put me where I was. So I was determined to get out of it. If I put myself here, I can get myself out. So I kind of, once I got to that point where I had I had to make changes. Um, let's see. I I did a number of stuff, but I refused to take any medication, right? Because, medication didn't get me here. So I put together a regimen just like that thing that Goggins was saying. Like I had the key the whole time, right? But I wasn't using it
Yep.
to get out of that dungeon. Um, and whatever, what I was stuck on for so long. And this is my depression probably lasted about from beginning to end, probably about 2 years. It wasn't really bad the whole time, but it was, um, in a nutshell, it was probably about 2 years. But the first like months of it, 6 months maybe, I was stuck trying to figure out what was happening, right? Because I have like an engineer's mind. Like if I could understand what's going on and what got me here, then I could fix it. But it took months for me to realize that I'm never going to understand it. Like it was too complex. There's too many
Yeah.
things, too many variables. But what kept me down there was the inaction of trying to figure it out. Like I thought about it and thought about it and did these retreats and did all this stuff and trying to figure out what was wrong with me. But the the point was it didn't freaking matter. I just needed to put my foot down and get back to the tried and true that got me to where I was, and pick up those things that I had dropped, basic things. Um, get more sleep was a big one. Uh,
Sharing
start
that.
working out again. Like I started reading, studying, doing all this stuff, taking supplements, not medication, supplements. Um,
AG1.
yeah, AG1. I'm thinking about doing that. It's pretty
Dude,
expensive,
do it. I've been doing it for maybe 6 months. Oh, so good.
but I mean, anyway, don't get, I guess my message is the same that Goggins just said there. Don't get stuck on the why. Just take action. The inaction is what keeps you there. And I wish I had figured that out earlier. I would have been done with that mess a lot sooner. But as soon as I got back to my regimen and forced myself to do things I didn't want to do, because when you're depressed, you don't want to do nothing. Like nothing. You don't
Yeah,
want to help
no.
yourself. You don't want to talk to people. You like, but anyway, I quit drinking for a year. I just enforced, and with the discipline that I knew I had in me, I just made myself go back and do these things that I knew would help me regardless of why I got there, right? So, and force myself. I had taken coaching off for a couple of years, forced myself back to coaching and getting those, interactions back, and all the stuff. But um, ultimately, it all comes down to like I started retraining my mind how to think about things. I was thinking about things all the wrong way. I was focused on what I didn't have instead of what I had, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
I had to, retrain myself and to climb out of that hole. And
yeah, no doubt. I got a similar story. Um, definitely just went through a similar type of deal. Um, lost a job. Um, I think after losing that job, as Cameron said in one of the earlier episodes, is like you tie up your identity too much, and that
absolutely.
yeah, and that willpower and that fight and all that stuff. If it doesn't work out, it's like, what the heck am I gonna? It's not working anymore right now, right?
Hmm.
Um, did lots of soul searching. I actually went to, after I got let go, I was searching for a new job, and I told my wife about it prior to me actually losing the job. I was like, hey, I'd like to go to this Pack Expo manufacturing, and went to Vegas. It was a good time. Probably drank a little too much during that event, but while I was networking right after losing the job, I was like, man. And I kind of put my foot down with that. And
Mm-hmm.
a couple of days later, I get this call from a recruiter. And in my homework, I did all the recruiter things that I was supposed to do, especially in food and beverage. And I get this call. He's like, hey, let me take a look. 2 days later, I get a call back. He's like, hey, there's this company likes your resume. I'm like, all right, let's go do the interview.
All right.
And that's where I'm today. And it was 100% God sent, like perfect fit, perfect match, slower pace. And it's just been so good. So
Excellent.
I just think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I also think looking internal, doing that search, doing the homework, doing the preparation, is what it takes. And it's so easy to get caught up in some of the, well, I don't have that minutia, that it's very easy to lose sight of maintaining the values of where you come from. And I think that's the exact same thing you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And coaching those teams, the real joy is in seeing those teams that you coach succeed. And that's super powerful. Not just because of the business, not just because of the team, but just for yourself. So
Absolutely. I just listened to a TED Talk this morning, and it was about this Harvard study where they studied, it's like one of the longest known studies ever. They studied like 700 guys from back in like pre-World War II for like 75 years. And all they did was look at their their life. They just recorded their whole life. And one of the takeaways was that, that some out of 700 guys, you had a myriad of, you know, things, people, one of them climbed to be a president, one of them, a lot of, went the opposite way, and they just tracked their lives. But what the common thread was the happiness of everybody, or the thread that tied all the happy people together at the end of their lives was their relationships. And
amen.
okay, so what I equate that to is my experience, right? And a big thing that I've always said is you got to be part of something bigger than yourself, right? And that's what a relationship is, right? You are, it's bigger than you. It's even if it's one person, right? It's bigger than you are. And then when you're part of a team, it's even bigger. So, but that feeling of being a part of something bigger than you are, that that's the essence of life, right? I mean, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
No, it's good
now I'm getting all
stuff, man.
philosophical.
Well, I got one more of those for you before I ask you the final question. And I can't remember where I came across this, but from a lady named Emma Cameron. She said, "Don't try to fight your inner critic," uh, says the integrative uh, psychologist Emma Cameron. When you try to tame silence or master it, you just may make it stronger. Instead, try thinking in terms of befriending it, guiding it, calming it, and gently transforming it to find out more in your inner critic. So that one was a good one for me personally, is like, hey, don't forget all those things, but tame it, focus it, and make it work wherever you are today. So that's that whole, it's okay to look back, don't stare, but at the same time, don't forget, because that's what got you where you're at today. Hone it in a little bit more and unleash the power in the right way. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So last question. What's your price of admission?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I was thinking about that. And I was coming up blank, and I figured it out. I think I figured it out.
Yeah.
Here's the answer is like nothing. Like, I really feel like I didn't pay a thing. I know that's kind of flipping the script on you, but when I think about the word price, right, I think of something that I pay or give up in return for something of comparable value, or hopefully greater value, right? But what I got from the brotherhood, being accepted to that, to me it felt like all gain. Like, that, what am I going to tell you? Yeah, there was pain, there was difficulty, there was suffering, there was blood, sweat, and tears, absolutely. But how are you going to weigh that against the experience of being and being a part of the brotherhood? How does that compare? It's a pittance. Everything, I feel like everything that we went through, I would do it over again 1,000 times over for that experience of playing with those brothers, of laying it all on the line for them, and them doing the same for you, for loving them and being loved by them. How can I, that's immeasurable. Nobody can ever take that away from me. That is worth more to me than anything, any payment. So it's priceless. It's immeasurable. So how do I put a price on it? That's how much it means to me.
Awesome.
So I don't know. There was pain, there was suffering, there was hard work, sure, but it's the grind. You can't cheat the grind, right? It knows how much you've worked, and it's only going to give you what you've earned. But that's all. That's nothing worth. That's like the saying, right? Nothing worth having comes easy. Just because it being hard is what gives it value. So, and this experience has been incredibly valuable to me. There's no price I wouldn't pay.
Awesome. Well, man, thanks for getting on.
Thanks for having me.
So good. You've definitely enlightened my spirit tonight. Like, every time I do one of these, I just get a little bit more energy, so thanks for that. I want to say thank your wife tonight for giving the time that you spent, and yeah, really good talk, man. It's
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. Probably went a little long, but
Hey.
we'll edit it out and make it shorter.
Not too much, but